Hi everybody, welcome to class tonight. Tonight is our Beltane class. Woo! It is Beltane. I can't wait. This season is finally upon us and I am super excited. If you haven't figured it out, this is one of my most favorite holidays. So you're gonna have to deal with me being a little bit hyper all today, and I apologize in advance, but it's Beltane. I'm allowed to, that's what we do. So if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, you're about to celebrate Beltane. If you live in the Southern Hemisphere, you're about to celebrate Samhain. If you're a Wiccan, there are two high holidays that we celebrate through our 8 holidays throughout the year. It is Beltane and it is Samhain. So that energy is just coursing all over our world right now. So we have all this high energy going on. The fact that Beltane and Samhain are apart from each other, if you were to look at the wheel of the year, they're actually like right across from each other, is very important, because one of the aspects that come into play is the veil is so thin right now, so you could almost reach across, almost touch anything that's on the other side. At Samhain, we usually tend to do things with our ancestors, but Beltane, it's a little bit different. You still can do a lot of ancestor magic, but usually we do a lot of fae magic during Beltane time. But if you're having weird dreams, if you're starting to get a lot of signals, if there's a lot of messages coming across, that's not abnormal. That's just the veil being really thin right now. So pay attention to what your dreams are saying and any of those weird feelings that you might get. You might pass by a graveyard, get a little bit of a tingle. You might go into a field, come across a fairy ring with the little mushrooms in a circle and feel a little bit of excitement. That's okay. Just go ahead and say a little prayer, reach across, say thank you, and listen to what they have to offer you. That's one of the beauties about this time of year. So, when exactly is Beltane? I'm actually doing this class a little early because I wanted to give you guys an idea of how you can celebrate. But if you were to do any internet search or you were to look in a book, you'd see May 1st as being the actual date for Beltane. Now, paganism runs on a lunar calendar. What does that mean? That means from sundown to sundown is when we actually celebrate our holidays. So April 30th sundown to May 1st sundown is when we actually celebrate Beltane. So it'll cover over the night of April 30th through May 1st. So that's important. That's why it's Beltane. Beltane used to be known as May Eve or May Day. Another name that you might find is Celtic Summer. During the time of our ancestors, this was the time when they were coming out of winter and things were starting to grow and the days were starting to get longer and a little bit warmer. So they were starting to celebrate things being alive. Beltane is about that. All the energy of Beltane is what makes you feel alive. Everything that is pleasure, everything that you can touch, see, smell, taste, feel, all those things just of pleasure coming across. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple of subjects that are a little bit more adultish. That doesn't mean that Beltane is only about sex. Don't think that. I'm going to cover a couple other ways because Beltane is for children as well, and Beltane is for asexual people as well. Don't think that Beltane only centers around sex. But there is a large aspect that does. So I'm going to cover sexual Beltane and I'm going to cover non-sexual Beltane. So let's get started. I'm going to cover a couple correspondents. I'm going to cover a couple main deities that are important this time. I'm going to cover a couple ideas. Let's talk about this sexual aspect of the Beltane, because a lot of people think, oh, it's all about sex. That's because it's a pleasure thing, and we don't have the weird taboos in the pagan religion that a lot of other religions do about sex. Sex is not a bad thing between consenting adults. Sex is a wonderful, pleasurable gift that has been given to us by the gods. During this time period, we have our god and goddess coming together. This is their marriage. This is their ceremony of love and light and fertility. What makes fertility? Sex. So that's why it's important for us during this time. So a couple of the ideas that you have for Beltane deals with sex. Not just that, because fertility is not just sexual activity. You can do fertility in a lot of different ways. You can do fertility of growth of the self, growth of your soul, growth of your spiritual aspects, or any idea that you have that you just want to expand upon and you just want to grow in your garden. My garden right now, I'm pointing at it, it's over here, is full of fertility right now because it is full of plants that are growing and just being blooming and just growing and becoming so much more right now. All right, let's talk about a couple colors that are important for Beltane. Let's start there tonight. There's so much information I want to share with you. So red. Red is passion. Red is high energy, and red is fire. These are all aspects that pull into Beltane. So having red as one of the colors of Beltane represents all those energies of fire and passion and just being strength, the courage, all these things. White, it deals with that little bit of innocence, that little bit of purity that comes through with it, that pure sense of joy that comes across with white. Yellow, because the sun is starting to shine brighter and we're starting to get more of that energy. Yellow is such a happy color. Yellow is such a bright, brilliant energy that comes across. Pink, it's dealing with that romantic side of things, that more gentler red, that little bit of just courting when comes with Beltane, that little bit of gentleness that comes with Beltane. Green. If you look behind me, there's all kinds of green going on. We are in the season of things growing. So that green is going on, but your heart chakra is also considered green. So all that heart energy going on, all that green just expanding around you, feeling all that energy. If you're not feeling Beltane energy yet, just give it a minute. You're going to start feeling it within the next week. Go walk outside barefooted, go take a walk in the woods, just put your feet on the earth and feel that energy rising up and feel it coursing across you. So a couple things to take that you might want to celebrate Beltane with is flowers. It's all about the flowers right now. So there's going to be a couple flowers that are very important during the Beltane time. Cowslip is one. I don't have any of that, so I didn't have any to show you, but it is considered a fairy flower. It's called the fairy's cup. If you go to any plant store, you might be able to find it. There are seeds all over the place. I actually have some in my garden, but it hasn't grown yet. We're still waiting for it to pop its head up, and obviously there's no flowers with it yet. But one of the traditions of Beltane was you were to take that, hang it in your doorway, and it was supposed to bring you good luck. So if you have some, go ahead and place it above your doorway. Let the Fae bless you and bring that energy into your home tonight. Another one was rose. This was one of my favorites. Rose just doesn't mean romantic love for me. Rose actually stands for a couple things in my family. My grandfather planted roses for my grandmother, and that was such a big aspect of my life growing up, seeing that love, seeing that energy all around us, that has correlated into my life as an adult, that I now associate so much of love with roses. So it's not just because it was the flower of love. So I actually saw it firsthand. But roses are very much in bloom during the spring and the summertime. So having that energy, having all that beautifulness come across, that is one of the flowers. The other one is a very simple flower, but it's a very beautiful flower, and it's very important during this time period. It's the dandelion. The dandelion represents courage and represents strength. So the dandelion during this time period, before anything else blooms, you start getting dandelions in your yard, and the bees come and they fertilize, and the bees are able to go back to their hives and start buzzing and starting to build their colonies bigger just from the pollen of the dandelion. So we're very thankful for the dandelion. A lot of people see them as weeds, but they're really not. And they're very high in nutrition as well. So if you wanted to put dandelions on your salads or make dandelion mead, which I have had and it's very good, I do suggest that you do try that. Another thing that you can have right now is lavender. So lavender smells wonderful. The bees are very attracted to it, and it's a beautiful, simple, relaxing flower. If you've ever smelled lavender, it just makes you feel calm, it makes you feel centered, it just makes you feel really good. So having lavender is one of the flowers that we have during this time period. Couple stones that you can have during this time period is rose quartz. Rose quartz is the quartz of love, and mostly self-love. It's really important to love yourself before you can love anything else. So having that strength, having that energy for yourself first. Fill your cup up, then fill others' cups. Give yourself an ability to love yourself. You are such an amazing person. You are such an amazing specimen of what the deities have created. And you are just all kinds of love from your ancestors. They had different children to have you. You are the product of so many people loving each other. So realize how great you are. Realize how wonderful you are. And give yourself just a big love hug and know that that's important. Emerald is another one. Emerald goes with the heart chakra. That is actually known as a stone is love. A lot of people are starting to get emerald rings instead of diamonds in their wedding bands because of its significance to love. Another one is the bloodstone. The bloodstone is a green and red. It's like speckled with red stone, and the bloodstone is really important for love as well. It represents the red and the green that goes with the love ability. Another one is an agate, which is the red agate, giving a, I think I have one here. Yeah, I do. So, and giving just its redness, the color, and its fire. Red agate is that firestone. So again, going with that passion, going with that energy. So fire was really important. I keep bringing up fire, but let me talk about why fire was important to our ancestors. So during this time period, all the herds are starting to get bigger and they need to cleanse them because they've been in stuffy little barns all stuck together and those type of things. And so they need to run through and get all the pesticide or the bugs and stuff off of them. And so they would build 2 fires and they would run the cattle through them, and the smoke would get on the cattle and the smoke would bless and also take off any of the bugs that have accumulated on the animals during the season. So a lot of people do that for themselves. They'll build 2 bonfires and they allow that smoke to wash across them, almost smoldering any negativity that might be going on. A couple other people jump a balefire. That's traditionally what I do during this time period. You make a balefire and you place energy of fertility in it. Now, when I do it with a group, I do 2 things. One, I do fertility for creativity and fertility in their lives and growth in those type of aspects. And then those people jump. And then the last people to jump are the baby making fertility, those that want to have children, those that want to be blessed with life. So that is really good to jump over balefire. It's like smoking and smoldering that energy to you. It's like, bring me that fertility, bring me that strength. I actually did that for my children, and there's been quite a few people that I've known that have jumped the balefire and have had babies. So if that's what you're going for, build a little fire, jump over it with your mate, and have a great, wonderful season of baby making. So a couple other things. You'll see a maypole. Traditionally, you'll see a bunch of ribbons hanging off a maypole during this time period. So everybody had been cooped up in their houses at this point, and this is one of the first times that people could get out and actually starting to meet again with people. Well, people are shy when sometimes they get together, but I'm telling you, if you build a Beltane maypole, people are no longer shy because there's lots of giggling, there's lots of bumping into each other, and just that energy starts to rise. The way that you do a maypole is, first off, you have to have a pole, and it's usually 6 foot or taller, 9 foot. And at the top of the pole, you need to make a ring of flowers. The pole represents the phallic and the flowers represent the female. That's the important thing, to have the balance of the male god and the female goddess. Then you have ribbons. I've seen rainbow ribbons and I've seen red and white, and it really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, or whatever you find or whatever you're attracted to. And then females run in one direction and males run in another direction, and you weave in and out of each other. So if you are walking towards someone, when you first start, you're going to go face to face. And then the next person, you're going to go back to back. What happens is the ribbons start being weaved along that pole, and it's really beautiful when you actually get to see it finished. But there's lots of giggling going on, there's lots of laughter, there's lots of bumping into each other, there's lots of males and females starting to actually accumulate with each other. And if you identify yourself as male, go ahead and still get in that line of the male. And if you identify yourself as female, then that's the side you stand on. You're just really accumulating that energy of the male and the female together. So maypoles are great. Right now, you know, with everything going on, you might not be able to do a maypole, but you can do a smaller maypole on your altar and sit there and weave together those energies. It is all about thinking of what you're creating, thinking about weaving those ribbons together and just having that energy circulating around you. Another thing is if you have the chalice and if you have your athame. So you're going to have the chalice representing the female, the athame representing the male, and you're going to do great rite energy together. What's the great rite? If you've never heard of the great rite before, this is actually a Wiccan ceremony where you are making fertility magic. You have the athame represented by the male and you have the cup represented by the female. And you can look it up online, or you can look it up in the Wiccan Bible is another place that you can find it. It's a Gardnerian ritual, and the female holds it and the male will place the athame in the cup. And in doing that, that is the combining of the male and the female energy together to make that fertility magic. Lots of people who do the great rite then go and actually have sex afterwards. And if you are consenting adults, go for it. And good luck to you. Have a great rite. Another thing that you can have is flowers. So one of the traditions that I do is I go and I pick flowers during May Day. So I go and find beautiful fields of wildflowers, or if I have any beautiful flowers growing in my yard, I'll go and I'll cut them and I'll make a beautiful array on my altar during that time period. A lot of women make flower crowns during this time period and they put them on their heads, and that's just going back to that maiden energy, that beautiful, wonderful, just all that fertility magic, and it's just great. Or they make the flower necklaces, which is what a lei is. So yeah, have fun with that one. Whatever you want to do, whether a crown or make yourself a necklace, knock yourself out. Have a great time doing that. Another thing that you can do is that you can take the flowers that you cut and you can throw them into water, moving water. And that is something that you do to call fae. So you would take a cutting and you make it an offering to that water, and you're asking the fae to come and bless you in your life. So I also do that during this time period as well. If you don't have running water near you, like a stream or a river or something like that, you can take a flower and pour water out and toss it and still ask for the fae's blessing at that point. So another thing is celebrating, whether it's by yourself or it's with your family at this time. You can still celebrate with food. Go and find what is the most wonderful food that your family absolutely loves. Make yourself a wonderful decadent dessert and have that. What kind of drink do you absolutely love to have during this time period? Make those things, make the meal special. And even if it's by yourself, what is your most favorite thing in the entire world? Make it for yourself. Spoil yourself at this time. Beltane is about being spoiled. And even if that's you just spoiling yourself, that's fine too. You deserve it. You deserve to spoil you. Okay. A couple other things to be important about this time period is the animals. So goats and rabbits and the white cows especially are very important during this time, but there are mythical creatures that are also important. And the fairy is the biggest one that we have, and the satyrs and the Pegasus and giants are all important during this time. But I'm going to talk about the fae right now. So I brought my little fairy. The fae during this time period are very, very important to be honored. So they're all starting to wake up and they're all reaching across the veil at this time too. How would you honor Fae? First off, sharing your food with them. There's traditions in Ireland and Scotland that you actually would go and leave out partial of your dinners during this time period so that they can enjoy it and they can have part of your food. Sharing your drink with them. If you have some apple cider that you're drinking and you just pour a little bit out for the Fae during this time period. I also talked about fairies, but I also talked about a fairy ring. What is a fairy ring? A fairy ring is when you find those mushrooms that make a circle on the ground. That's a great place to go and find Fae. Don't step in the middle of it though. Stay on the outside. The funniest story that I have about this is my dog doesn't even go through fairy rings. It's like she knows, or she's been around me too long. I don't know, but she's like, nope, we always walk around those, and I laugh every time she does. I'm like, yeah, she knows. She's such a witchy dog. So anyways, satires. Satires are really important because, satyrs. Why did I say satires? Satyrs. The satyr is a really important one because, again, it goes back to one of the deities that go around this time period. Pan and Dionysus. These are both satyrs. These were gods that were half goat legs and men on the top. So at this point, I'm going to talk about those gods and why they're important. So Pan is a god of mischief. He's also a god of fertility, and he's a wild god. Think about wild gods. What is a wild god? I don't know about you, but the wild god is my god. I don't know if it's the thought about this really gorgeous, built, wild guy who you know is like warrior and just a little bit of a bad boy just standing over there. Okay, yes, I'm talking about my husband. But it is just this idea of this God just controlling everything in nature, just all that chaos that you see that is actually so incredible and so beautiful, growing and being these things. So one of the things that you can do is you can do a meditation to a God like this. You can call him forward and you can ask him to be with you, and you can just ask him to either inspire you if you are of male God energy, or you can ask him to be part of your ritual with you, kind of lay with you, kind of give you that energy, kind of build fertility with you. So on the same aspect, we have the goddess. What's the goddess during this time? So she's all the fertility goddess. So we're getting out of the maiden. We no longer have that childlike goddess. We have that gorgeous goddess, that goddess that is ready to be a mother, that goddess who is Venus, that goddess that is Astarte, that goddess that is Fae Queen, that goddess that is just, when you see her, she just looks incredibly beautiful. She just has everything that a female should have in every way, whatever that vision is for you. That just gorgeous body, just that you can almost smell her walking towards you, just that sweet honey vanilla smell, just amazing. Just that female energy. So with that, you can do just like you did with the god. So you can either, if you want to lay with her and have that fertility magic, or if you want to aspire to be more like her, to pull that energy into yourself and just have all that energy of that sexy goddess going on, all those things that just screams just sexuality and just beautiful, and all just that energy of fertility, the world exploding and coming to life. So how do you want to explode the world and make it come to life? So that type of energy going on. The element that covers over Beltane is air. That's important because we're talking about new beginning things. We're not talking about things starting to wane off. No, we are at the beginning of things, the start of things. So I kind of want to think of Beltane as being the beginning of a new romance, a beginning of a new friendship, a beginning of a new book or a new chapter or something like that. So it is just all like you're excited. What's the first day of school feel like? What's the first day of your job feel like? You are just so excited about it. So that energy comes into Beltane. You are just pulling all that great, like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm here, everything's starting energy. So keep that in mind when you're doing your Beltane. Your astrological sign that we're in is Taurus. We entered into Taurus on the 22nd, 23rd. I'm not really sure. I'm not really into astrology that heavily. But if you are very heavily into astrology, you might celebrate your Beltane when Taurus hits 15 degrees. I do know that. May 5th might be the day that you celebrate your Beltane. So whatever works for you, whatever energy feels the greatest for you. But do keep in mind Taurus. We talked about one of the animals being the bull. When you think of the bull, when you think of cows, when you think of herd type of things, what are you thinking? They are great moms. They are very protective of their babies. They are very loving towards each other when it comes to their offspring. It's also, the bull is very strong. He's very protective over those that he loves. He will watch over his herd and take care of his ladies. So thinking of those type of energy, the bull is considered strong, strength, masculinity. So we have some gods that go with this. We have the god Baal. The god Baal was actually very fertile with his wife. He had 23 different gods. So calling upon Baal during this time is one of the deities that you might want to find to bring that energy into your world. Taboos. Let's talk about a couple taboos. These are important because this goes back to the heart of what Beltane is about. Giving away food is considered a taboo. That is the idea that you don't need it, that you are willing to give away your abundance. So food is considered an abundance. So if you are willing to give away your abundance, you are doing the opposite of what Beltane is about. Giving away your fire, giving away your passion, giving away what sparks you to do what you want to do. So on Beltane, those two taboos you want to keep in mind not to do. You want to build your abundance. You want to build and spark your ideas of what you're trying to do. Couple things for a ritual that you might want to do: self-discovery. I talked about self-love, going back once again, figuring out, what do you want to do? What do you want to spark? What do you want to create? What do you want to bring into this world? So figuring out what's important to you and why it's important to you is a great thing to do during this time period. Talked about lovemaking. Yes, lovemaking. So actually, there's a lot of tradition that goes back to people used to go into their gardens and have sex in their gardens because it was like them showing the plants, hey plants, this is what we want. We want you to have all this fertility energy. We want you to be blessed. And then again, it blessed them. Almost like the plants were like, hey humans, you want to have babies, you want to have fertility, we share back and forth. So lovemaking is really important during this time period. It's also a time for personal growth and taking things outward and into the future. So planning things, it's no longer about the introspection and that quiet time. It's like, what am I going to explode? What am I going to actually do during this time period? A couple other things that I want to talk about. One of the traditions that I do on Beltane is I get up on May 1st at dawn when the sun is rising, and I actually watch the sun rise. I actually go outside and I touch the dew on the grass. Now this is a tradition that goes back into the Middle Ages, where the maidens would go out, they would pick the dew off the ground, and they would bless themselves with the dew. That's so that they would be blessed with beauty, and that they would be blessed with the men and the lovers that come into their life will love them and give them all kinds of attention. I do it just because I think it's a fun thing to do, but I do get up and I do honor my gods at that time. I honor my deities because my deity is a love goddess. She's a warrior love goddess. So I go out at this time and I pull that energy and I thank her for the beauty that she has given me, the beauty of myself, inward and outwardly, and that I might spread more beauty along with me. So a couple other things that you might do is you might want to just sit down with a fire. and sit down and watch that fire and let that fire dance around you and let that energy grow and let that energy just explode across the ground. So having that energy of the fire just tickling at you, the warmth and the heat, and just watching that fire and doing fire scrying at this time might be an important thing for you to do. So one of the other things I'm going to show you how to do, oh, the apple. I forgot about the apple. The apple is very important during this time period. So the apple actually represents love and represents abundance. And so if you have a loved one that you get to celebrate Beltane with, sharing an apple with that person, whether it be an apple like this or an apple pie or whatever, however you want to make it, is really important. Just kind of sharing that with them and having that moment with them. So, but what I was going to, so one of the things that I do with my fire is I do the incense, the herbs, and I put them together. And I was going to show you how to make a bundle, and so that you can burn it during this time period. So I took the rose, I also took rosemary. Rosemary is a great herb during this time period because rosemary is about remembrance. Remembering what is important to you, remembering old loved ones, remembering the families, remembering great times. Take rosemary, break a sprig off, smell it, and then remember some of the best times of your life. What was the most romantic night? What was the most loving moment of your life? And just smell it and allow yourself to remember back to those moments. So it's really easy to make bundles. You can buy store-bought stuff if that's what you have. If you don't have a garden, you don't have to grow it yourself. But I tend to grow my own stuff. You put it all together, and when you have it all together and you have it bundled, oops, dropping pieces, sorry. Then you're gonna tie it all together. And you're gonna take it and you're going to let it dry. And when it's all dried out, then you can burn it. So that was the part I was getting to. I like to make bundles prior to the holidays so that I can take them and toss it into the fire and let that smoke, that incense, be part of my celebration with me. So just gonna take it. I picked pink because I didn't have any pink flowers. So I thought, oh, I'll put pink here. So you're gonna start wherever you're most tied at, and you're gonna tie it off. And then this also goes back to the weaving part. Weaving whatever I want. So while I'm tying these up, I'm thinking of the wonderful herbs and what they represent. And then I start weaving my intentions. So my Beltane is going to be about love. It's going to be about growth. It's going to be about fertility of self and new beginnings and what I want to bring into my life. And there you go. That is a bundle. It's pretty easy to make. A lot of people think it has to be difficult. It's not. And you can choose to put whatever you want to put in here. You can put the traditional herbs of Beltane, but you can also put whatever is important to you at this time period. If you are specifically trying to grow something where you're like, look, I'm doing this, I need a new job, or I need to have fertility of children, or whatever, you're going to grow your own intention through whatever herbs that you choose. And then you just tie a knot in it, and then it's done. And I hang it upside down like this, and I let it dry, and then on the night of Beltane, I'm gonna toss it into the fire, and I'm gonna let all that smoke wash over me with the intention that I have. So I hope that I've covered everything for tonight. Let me just check really quick through my notes and make sure that I've gotten everything for this. A couple other trees that are important. Rowan, if you have a rowan tree, usually we don't touch rowan, we don't cut branches of rowan because it is the goddess's tree. But during Beltane, you can take the branches and you can make a circle. And it said if you look through a circle of rowan branches that you can see that it's almost like a looking glass. So if you have a rowan tree, which I don't know of any of here, the only place that I saw it was in Scotland, but that doesn't mean that you don't have any near you. So if you have a rowan tree, go ahead and make yourself a rowan looking glass to find yourself some bay. St. John's wort is another one. St. John's wort is really great. It's if you were to take St. John's wort as an herb, it's a mood enhancer, so it just makes you a little happy. So that's another herb that you might want to use during this time period. Daisies, frankincense, ivy, marigold is another one. So all these are great, wonderful herbs that you can use. Other than that, that's all I have for tonight. I really hope you guys have a great Beltane. One of the things that I wanted to do tonight was show you a couple of the books that I got a couple ideas out of. This is just a magical book. When I was looking up things for my herbs, I try to look up the magical correspondence for them so that I can have that. Here is just a book on the gems and the stones and things that I'm going to use for that. I did use my Circle Round book. This is really great, especially if you have children and you're trying to incorporate a couple ideas for Beltane for children. So doing things with laughter, doing things where they're running around, playing tag, doing maypoles with them, or just, you know, all kinds of things with waking up the Fae and connecting with the Fae, because the little ones are very close to that realm, and the laughter that they have and listening to that giggle brings you a little bit closer. But this is a great parent pagan book so that you can have a couple ideas. It's got like stories and songs and things like that in it, and it gives you just a little bit for the little generation. I also have just a basic Sabbath book, so this is going to give you a lot of the correspondence that you're looking for. It's going to give you a couple ideas how you can celebrate the holiday. And then I use this one, Dancing with the Sun, because this one is gives you a couple meditations in it, and the meditation that I've used in the past where you go find the green man and you go find Venus and you lay with them both and you have just that energy moment with them is actually found in this book. So you can also look up on the internet for a couple ideas for how you want to celebrate your Beltane. So remember, the green man, Cyrano, Pan, Baal, these are the great gods that we're calling to right now. For the goddesses, you have Venus, you have Astarte, you have Gaia, you have Bas as one. So just all these incredibly wonderful goddesses, marriage goddesses, sexual fertility goddesses, same thing with the gods, marriage gods, fertility gods, warrior gods, wild gods, the gods of the earth are what you're thinking about right now. So good luck. I hope you all have a great Beltane. Please post any ideas that you have, anything that you're specifically doing for yourself with your families. Please share with the group. You might inspire someone else how to give them a great idea. Other than that, have a great Beltane. I'm going to be back on next Thursday. We're going to set up an altar. I'm going to do the meditation that's in this book so you guys can have it, but I'll also do another meditation for the children so that you can have a more PG version of a meditation for your Beltane. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Have a great night and happy Beltane!